Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new, my name is Audrey Hope and I post acting videos. So today I'm going to be talking about how to handle rejection in the industry. Unfortunately, this is like 98% of the job, is literally getting told no. Everyone in the industry has heard that. You have to be able to take rejection, da 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 da. But I'm going to give you guys my tips of how I've learned to handle rejection and to keep going in this industry, because I've been doing it for 8 years, which is crazy to say. So I've definitely had my fair share of rejection, and I've definitely learned how to better handle it, because it really is what will make or break your career. Because I feel like most actors don't succeed because they can't handle the rejection, which is very understandable, but most actors really don't get their big break or book anything until so many years down the line. So imagine how many great actors haven't been discovered because they gave up right before they booked their big thing. I've heard so many stories of like Jenna Fisher from The Office, so many other successful actors say that audition they almost didn't even do. That was their last audition, their last hope. They were about to quit. And if they had quit before that audition, they would have never become actors. So when you get an audition, you're obviously very excited, you're ready to submit it, you're ready to hear that you booked the role, you want to read it and get all of the information about this project. What I used to do that is a big mistake is I'd look at, they have like the filming days, the callback days, fitting days. They give you all of these dates to see if you're available. They don't give you all these dates to like see if you've heard back by. But us actors take those dates and we come up with a timeline in our head that's like, I'd have heard by this day, and like I would be at a fitting right now if I had booked this. So don't look at those dates as, am I available these days? Yes. Okay, I'm going to say I'm good for these dates. What I would do is I would literally come up with an imaginary timeline for every audition, and my life would revolve around this imaginary timeline. I'd wake up and I'd be like, it's Wednesday. Okay, I'd hear today or tomorrow, and I'd be at a fitting by this day. And then every day you're living around this audition, and it's way easier said than done, but you really do need to submit the audition and just leave it in the casting director's hands. Be ruminating on the timeline and when you would have heard by, and if you would have heard by this time. If you hear, you're here. If not, it's fine. Coming up with an imaginary timeline and waiting for it is not going to make it any more likely to happen for you. And plus, those timelines get changed all the time. It is genuinely a waste of time. I had a friend, he auditioned for a movie, never heard anything. Months and months later, after the movie would have been done filming, they're like, oh, like, you're booked. The filming dates got moved. So you really can't, and that doesn't mean you should just hold out hope for months and months and months, but that does mean that like it's a waste of time, because you're never going to know what's going on the other side of things. So that's the biggest mistake that I think most actors do when they first start, is they come up with that timeline in their head, and then every audition that you get, you're revolving your life around it until the next one comes in. You get enough auditions that your whole life is going to revolve around just one audition to the next, and then the next, and then the next, and you never get time to breathe. So, and it makes the heartbreak even more because you've built it up and you've thought about it so much more. Another thing is, do not constantly be looking for who booked it and like if they've announced who's booked it. And even after, the movies come out and stuff, stalking the actor can be kind of a questionable thing. It is good to see who's booking your roles, because I have several actors that book consistently the roles that I audition for, and I like to see how they do the performance and like compare it to my audition and see what I can learn from them, because they're obviously really talented. And like usually you will see a certain actor getting the same auditions as you, and it's it's interesting to study them and stuff, but it can also be damaging to really stalk an actor who booked a role you really wanted and be imagining what it would be like if you had done that, or that should be you on that set, or look at all these opportunities I would have gotten if I had just booked it. And this industry is really hard because you hear of all these stories of like, the Outer Banks cast and stuff, and there are people that were second in line for that role. Imagine walking away from that and knowing if you had just been that person, your life would have completely changed, like second in line. And I've had auditions for life-changing roles. Like if I had booked these, my life would be completely different now. I've auditioned for literally my favorite TV show in the whole world that it was my dream to get on, and I didn't get it. I auditioned multiple times and I didn't get it. So handling that heartbreak is hard. And these are just some of the things that I've done to lessen it, because I've gotten way better at handling rejection than I used to. I actually got this tip from Sydney Sweeney. She said that every audition she did, she'd write like a novel about this character. She'd come up with like an extravagant backstory. She'd make a playlist for them, and that can all be great. But for an initial audition, it can also be damaging because you get that much more attached to the role. And especially if it's not a huge role or like a huge role in the project, every role you audition for, you should be putting in equal amounts of effort. But if it's like a smaller role where not all of that's necessary, you probably shouldn't. And like if you don't even have a callback yet, or you know what I mean? Like it can be damaging to put too much thought and effort into each role. And she said I would get attached to them, and then not booking it would make it a lot harder because I've built this whole character in my head. So really you should audition, you know, you have in the back of your head the character that you are and the character you want to play and what it is to you, and bring a little bit of yourself into it and give your performance and leave it there. You know, you don't really need to do all of that work. You know, every actor is different, so this might not be for you, but I say for most actors, you don't do that work until you've booked that role, because it can be damaging to pour yourself into every single audition and like make it your own and make your own character, and then you don't get it and you're attached to it. This is what I think has helped me the most, and I think this goes for all actors. We literally are just begging for someone to tell us we're good enough. All of us are just waiting for someone to look at you and go, yep, you've got what it takes. And what you need to realize is you're never gonna get that. And no one else is going to see that in you other than yourself. And that sounds, you know, so woe's me, whatever. But it's true, like us actors are seeking other people's approval. That's what the job is. But at the same time, no one is going to realize your potential or know that you're good enough or know that you can do it until you've already done it. And that's something that I really did not understand in the beginning. I thought that you either had it or you didn't. You were either good enough or you weren't good enough, and you're born with the talent or you weren't, and then that was it. So you're either a Jennifer Lawrence or you're a loser who's never going to book anything. And I would just think, okay, if I book one thing, if just one casting director tells me I'm good enough, then I know I can do it. And you can't live like that, because I would just sit around hoping, like, if my acting coach thinks I'm good enough, if da-da-da-da-da thinks I'm good enough, then I have what it takes. And what you need to realize is no one can just look at someone and see if they're going to become something. You can't trust everyone else's opinions. You have to, and it sounds so corny, but you do have to believe that you're good enough, because no one else can, like, look at you and say you're worthy, you're good enough, you have what it takes, you have this special talent to be able to do this. My favorite story that I recently heard is the famous violinist Joshua Bell. He's one of the most talented violinists ever, and they did a study with him where they put him in a DC Metro during rush hour, and they had him play on a $3.5 million violin and play one of the most intricate pieces of music ever. And they had him play for about 45 minutes, and they were like, we're going to see how much money he makes. They guessed like 100. You know, most people aren't going to know who he is. He made $52, and 20 of that was from someone who recognized who he was and like gave him a note. So really only $30 that he got from playing the violin in the Metro and people leaving money. It was about $30. And I forget, it's a very, maybe 20 people stopped and listened to him play. Like a very few amount of people stopped and listened to him play. And the next, or 2 days later, he ended up playing like at this, you know, big place, and like the seats ranged from around $100 a seat to just, and he sold out the whole place. So it's all about like perspective, and the people going there knew who Joshua Bell was already, and they thought it was worth paying $100 for a seat to listen to him play. And these people were walking past one of the most famous violinists in the world, playing on a $3.5 million violin, playing one of the most intricate pieces of music ever, and they didn't even know what they were passing or what they were listening to. I bet, you know, maybe 1 or 2 people actually realized how amazing what they were witnessing was. And so that really goes to show that the amazing talent that a person possesses isn't necessarily seen by everyone else, and we don't usually notice it until everybody else sees it and then we agree with them. All that being said is you can be doing beautiful work and feel like you're getting no recognition, and as long as you're proud of it, that has to be enough for you, because no one is going to be able to look at you and say you have what it takes, you're going to make it in the industry. So you have to believe that you genuinely do, or you're going to put in enough work to make it in the industry. And another thing that really helps is listening to other actors talk about their rejection stories. I've told this story before, but I was at a seminar and it was this agency giving like a little speech and a Q&A for all these actors, and they were talking about how the guy who played Steve Harrington, Joe Keery, auditioned for their agency right before Stranger Things happened, and they declined him. They said they didn't want him, and if they had signed him, you know, they would have made a lot of money off him, and they had no idea that he was about to go star on one of Netflix's biggest TV shows ever. He hadn't even gotten the audition then, but he walked into their doors and they rejected him. And I'm sure he didn't feel very good because it wasn't even a good agency. It was their, you know, not a very well-known agency. I think it was a random agency in like Chicago. And they rejected him, and like a month later he had booked Stranger Things. So you really can't take each rejection as like someone just not thinking you're good enough. There's so many other rejection stories. Like, you think that these famous actors have just been talented from day one. People have seen them act, and like every time they acted, people were like, oh my gosh, like, wow, that was the best acting I've ever seen. That was beautiful. And that's just not true. People don't appreciate something until everyone else already appreciates it. So when these actors were just newbie actors, they were being ignored just like everybody else, and they were getting rejected just like everybody else. Jennifer Lawrence has so many rejection stories. Every actor does. So it's helpful to listen to those and to know we're literally all going through this. This is one of the most annoying pieces of advice that I am going to share, and I hated hearing this, but what parts for you are really meant for you. And yes, you're an actor, so yes, you should be able to play like any character, whatever, but there is an essence of you that you bring to every single character. Especially nowadays, people are less of character actors and they're more of like personality actors, where it's more of you as a person in these circumstances building this character around you. And so there is very much an essence of you. Like my sister and I, we look similar, but we never audition for the same roles. We audition for completely different roles, and our acting styles are completely different. And we both, you know, I feel like are very talented and book our own separate things, but we are very different. We have very different essence about us, but we're close in age, we look similar, but we don't get the same audition. So your essence is a big part of everything. And so you need to know that the parts that are meant for you are meant for you, and the ones that aren't. Like, whoever's meant to get that role gets it, and if you're not meant for that role, you don't want it anyways. And I know that's like, oh, that's so annoying, I just want to work, I just want to act, but it's true. Like, you don't want to audition and book something that doesn't fit you, or that is going to be, you're going to wake up every day and it's going to be like, oh my gosh, I have to go do this again. Okay, this, like, you know what I mean? You don't want to play characters that don't suit you and fit you. The auditions that my sister and I have booked have always been the auditions that we go into, and it was effortless. We effortlessly fell into this character, and it really feels different. Like, you just effortlessly are this character, and it happens for you effortlessly. And that's truly because I think that, you know, every part that's meant for you is truly meant for you. So if you don't book a part, it was not meant for you to get it. And there's been so many times where I was so disappointed I didn't book something, and almost every time I look back and I'm like, actually, thank goodness I didn't book that because of this. Or thank goodness I didn't book that because I got an audition for an even bigger part later on. We know about this much that goes on. And whether you're a Christian or not, you know, you do need to truly believe that whatever's meant to happen is going to happen. And if something doesn't happen for you, it really wasn't meant to. And I truly believe that. And I think you do need to believe that, because otherwise you're going to drive yourself absolutely crazy, especially in this industry, because it can be very, very disappointing and very frustrating. And then my last and final tip is, I used to literally go crazy filming auditions. Like, I'm talking, I would take like 5 hours to film one audition. It should never take that long. And I would make it miserable. And you need to start looking at auditions as practice. And again, that sounds very annoying, but it's true. Like, every audition, you're getting better. And you should look at an audition as like, oh my gosh, I have an opportunity to work on my acting, to practice my craft, to actually do something instead of just like a scripting class. Like, I'm auditioning for this casting director. This casting director might not want me for this role, but they could call me back for another one later. Like, every audition is a great opportunity, and every audition is great practice. So start looking at it as like, yay, I got this audition, not, yay, I got this audition, I better book it. Yay, I got this audition, I can hopefully be on set and do this and make this money. And instead look at it as, yay, I got this audition, I get to practice this, and I can try this new technique, and I haven't done this casting director before, or ooh, this casting director called me back. Look at those wins instead of trying to look at the end goal, and you're just going to have way more fun with your auditions and be way more excited about them. And also, you should not be killing yourself over an audition. But I hope that was helpful, and as always, if you guys have any questions, leave them down below or DM me on Instagram. I try to to reply to everyone. I know I haven't posted it in a while. I'm like putting this in the end of the video because I'm like at my actual subscribers hopefully stayed till the end and like can hear this part because I know that other people like definitely don't care. But I'm trying to post every week, but I'm taking a little break. I know it's been a while since my last video, but I've been really struggling because YouTube's in a weird place in general, and then the acting industry is in a very weird place. We were in a writer's strike, we're in an acting strike. It's hard to make acting content, and I don't want to just put out videos to put out videos. Like, I want every video to actually be worth your time and worth mine, and I want you to know that if you click on my video, it's like going to be a good video. So I'm going to do less is more. If I post a video, it's one I'm proud of, it's one I really like. I'm going to try to decide where I want to go with my channel. If you guys have any ideas or tips, please leave them down below. I will greatly appreciate it. I believe in every single one of you, and I hope to see you on set one day. And I will see you in the next video.